You can see there is a few items in here that could work. Well, decorator items. I think I'm going to try this one if it doesn't go for too much. Brandi Passante spent years digging through forgotten storage units. Then in 2023, she bought a locker for $1,900 that nobody else wanted. The door was rusted shut. The smell was terrible. Even Jared would have walked away, but something made her stay. What she found inside changed everything. Bank records, legal documents, and a collection so rare the appraisers needed armed guards. The total value shocked even AE executives, but Brandi had to make a choice that haunts her today. Brandi Passante was born on May 16, 1980, in Harris County, Texas. It wasn't an easy place to grow up, and her home life was even tougher. From a young age, she was physically abused by her brothers. This wasn't playful wrestling, it was violent, frightening, and constant. Brandi later said, "My brothers used to beat me up all the time. I learned to fight back, and that's why I don't take crap from anyone now." In that kind of environment, you either broke down or toughened up. Brandi chose the second. That toughness would become her shield in life, and her edge in the business world later on. But inside, she wasn't as fearless as she looked. Brandi was shy, quiet, and often unsure of herself. She didn't enjoy socializing. She didn't know how to be the loud, outgoing kid. Instead, she gave people what she called dirty looks. It wasn't meant to scare them, really. It was just a way to protect herself. If she looked angry or distant, maybe they'd leave her alone. That look stuck with her. Years later, fans of Storage Wars would recognize that same stare. She even laughed about it, saying her resting bitch face was never about attitude. It was just how she kept people from seeing how nervous she really was. Her childhood wasn't just chaotic. It was deeply painful. There was no warmth at home, no safe space. That kind of emotional void forced her to grow up fast. She stopped trusting easily. She didn't wait for people to save her. She built a wall and relied only on herself. That sharp instinct for reading people, knowing when someone was lying, sensing trouble before it hit, came from years of living on edge. It helped her survive, and later, it helped her win. In storage auctions, where you often had to make snap decisions and trust your gut, she had a huge advantage. She didn't learn those skills from a book. She learned them by surviving her childhood. Her life began to change when her family moved to California. The move was a shock, new place, new culture, but it was also a chance to leave some of the pain behind. In California, she had a fresh start. Eventually, she met Jared Schultz. The two clicked, and their partnership grew beyond just romance. They started working together, diving into the world of storage auctions. It was a rough business. You had to think fast, act faster, and know how to hold your ground. Brandi was made for it, not because she planned to be, but because her past had trained her for chaos. She didn't flinch in tough moments. She didn't back down when things got messy. She leaned into the chaos and made it work for her. Even before the cameras ever found her, Brandi had developed a strong work ethic. She didn't have a choice. With little money and even less emotional support, she learned to carry her weight early. She worked odd jobs, helped around the house, and never waited for someone else to fix things. That attitude stayed with her. In 1999, Brandi Passante and Jared Schultz met while working at a carpet cleaning company in Tustin, California. Jared was the sales manager. Brandi was the new hire. Their jobs weren't glamorous, and their connection didn't start with sparks. Jared was technically her boss, and workplace relationships weren't exactly encouraged. At one point, a mutual friend even left notes on Jared's truck, reminding him to be nicer to her. He could be rough around the edges, and he admitted it. Brandi wasn't immediately sold on him either. In her own words, "He wore me down." He was persistent. It was an odd match formed between carpet stains and chemical fumes, but it worked. That quiet beginning would lead to one of reality TV's most memorable duos. Their future fame was still far off, but the foundation had been laid in the most unlikely setting. Their time in carpet cleaning turned out to be more useful than anyone could have guessed. Cleaning people's messes, sorting through their forgotten stuff, and dealing with daily grime taught them something valuable: how to see worth in what others tossed away. That experience gave them an edge when they stepped into the world of storage auctions. When Jared's aunt, who managed a public storage facility, suggested they check out a local auction, they gave it a shot. They didn't come in cold. Years of sorting through junk had taught them how to spot hidden value. They weren't afraid to get their hands dirty, and that mindset gave them an advantage over people who were. Most folks saw a pile of junk. Brandi and Jared saw a puzzle to solve, and maybe a profit. Before they ever became TV stars, they took a big risk. In February 2010, they opened a thrift store called Now and Then in Orange, California. Their plan was simple: buy cheap items from storage units and sell them in the shop. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills and built their reputation. The store did well enough that they opened a second location in Long Beach in March 2013. They even threw a grand opening party with food, music, and fans. But retail isn't easy. The Long Beach shop struggled and closed in 2014. The Orange store quietly shut down around 2016. Still, the stores mattered. They proved that Brandi and Jared were willing to gamble on themselves, and that gamble caught the attention of TV producers. It was those shops and the couple behind them that helped land them a spot on Storage Wars. Their thrift stores weren't just businesses. They were launch pads. When Storage Wars hit the airwaves on December 1, 2010, it didn't take long for Brandi Passante and Jared Schultz to shake things up. At just 30 years old, Brandi wasn't just one of the youngest buyers on the show, she was also one of the boldest. Most of the veteran bidders were older, more set in their ways. But Brandi and Jared came in with no fear and no filter. They didn't follow the rules. They learned on the job, made risky bids, and made plenty of mistakes. But they learned fast, and they learned in front of millions of viewers. Their nickname, the Young Guns, wasn't just a catchy title. It captured exactly what they were: new blood with something to prove. While juggling the chaos of auctions, they were also raising 2 young kids and managing their thrift shop Now and Then in Orange, California. That mix of ambition and pressure made them relatable. They weren't just trying to win auctions, they were trying to build a life. And that made people root for them. Brandi and Jared didn't just change the energy of the show, they helped redefine who could succeed in that world. Right from the start, Brandi stood out. She wasn't dramatic for the cameras, she didn't act. What you saw was what you got. Her eye rolls, her annoyed looks at Jared, her joy when a risky bet paid off. None of it was fake. While other cast members sometimes seemed over the top or theatrical, Brandi kept it real. And viewers noticed her honesty made her instantly likable. She didn't pretend to be an expert. She admitted when she was wrong. She laughed at herself, and she wasn't afraid to speak up when someone, especially Jared, was being reckless. Over time, her honesty built trust. Fans connected with her because she didn't hide behind a polished image. She opened up about the challenges of balancing fame, family, and business. She once described the show as a blessing and a curse, and that line stuck. It showed how much pressure came with the spotlight, even as it opened doors. Her openness didn't stop when the cameras turned off. On social media, she continued to share real moments from her life. No filters, no fake smiles, just Brandi. That kind of honesty kept her audience loyal. The fame from Storage Wars had a massive effect on their thrift store. Before the show, Now and Then was just a small second-hand shop relying on local walk-ins. But after the first season aired, everything changed. Fans lined up to see the store in person. hoping to meet Brandi and Jared, or even buy something they saw on TV. Business exploded. By 2013, they opened a second location in Long Beach. At first, it looked like a smart move. The buzz was real, and both locations were packed. But the hype didn't last forever. The Long Beach store struggled and had to close within a year. The original store stayed open until early 2016, before quietly shutting down too. The rise and fall of the stores mirrored the highs and lows of reality TV fame. Still, that brief retail empire proved something important. Brandi wasn't just a reality star. She had business instincts, negotiation skills, and grit. Even after the stores closed, her reputation for being sharp and tough stuck with her. That image helped her pivot to new ventures and stay relevant long after others faded. In 2014, A&E decided to give Brandi and Jared their own show. Brandi and Jared, Married to the Job, premiered on August 12th of that year. The concept was simple. Show what life looked like after the auctions. Fans got to see them running their stores, raising their kids, and navigating a relationship under pressure. It wasn't always pretty. The show showed arguments, stress, and the messy parts of being a couple on TV, but that rawness made it compelling. It wasn't scripted fluff, it felt real. Still, the show only lasted 8 episodes. Ratings weren't bad, but not strong enough to continue. Even though it didn't go beyond 1 season, the show added another layer to their story. It showed that their appeal wasn't just about auctions. It was about how they handled everything life threw at them. Meanwhile, there were some shocking finds. Brandi Posante and Jared Schultz paid just $50 for a dusty old storage unit that didn't look like much. But when they pried it open and started digging, they hit the jackpot. The unit was packed with My Little Pony toys, hundreds of them. Some were vintage, some rare, some still sealed in their original boxes. As they pulled out figure after figure, it became clear this wasn't just someone's childhood collection. This was gold for collectors. When the appraiser ran the numbers, the final value came to $875. That meant their $50 bet had turned into nearly 17 times the profit. The episode aired in Season 6 and instantly became a fan favorite. Brandi was thrilled. Jared, as usual, was doubtful. But the bronies, adult My Little Pony superfans, went wild. This wasn't just luck. It was one of the most memorable flips in Storage Wars history. But not every find made Brandi smile. 1 season earlier, she spent $900 on a unit that looked boring from the outside. That feeling didn't last long. As she and her assistant dug through the mess, the locker took a disturbing turn. Inside was what looked like a voodoo collection. There were animal bones, a skull with antlers, carved staffs, strange bags filled with chicken bones, and a creepy little figure wearing a chicken hat. Brandi was clearly shaken. She refused to resell any of it. To her, the stuff felt dangerous. Was it real voodoo? Was it art? Viewers couldn't decide. But one thing was clear. This locker was one of the creepiest the show ever aired. Then came one of Brandi's riskiest moves. She spent $150 on a unit without knowing what was inside. It was a huge risk, but when she opened the door, the gamble made sense. The locker was filled with professional screen printing equipment, screens, presses, dryers, even an exposure unit. It was everything needed to start a printing business. After an expert looked it over, the gear was valued at $5,000. Not only did Brandi walk away with a solid profit, but the find showed just how unexpected and profitable these storage units could be. It was about more than just resale. It was about possibilities. In 2014, she did it again. She put down $250 on another locker that looked like it had nothing but junk. Jared wasn't sure about the call, but as they sorted through it, things got interesting. Hidden under piles of old stuff were paintings, wall decorations, and personal artifacts. Then they found the big prize, a professional-grade paint spray system worth over $3,000. When everything was added up, the locker was valued at $3,500. It was a reminder that buried treasure doesn't always look shiny at first. Sometimes it just takes someone with Brandi's eye to spot it. But nothing topped the early win that changed everything. Brandi and Jared paid $1,700 for a locker that nobody else seemed to want. When they opened it, they were stunned. It was packed with vintage toys, action figures, rare collectibles, all in excellent shape. The collection was massive, and the quality was unmatched. Once it was all appraised, the final value came to $12,800. That single locker turned into one of the biggest scores in Storage Wars history. The story of Storage Wars took a dramatic turn in December 2012. David Hester, one of the show's most recognizable faces, filed a shocking lawsuit that exposed what he claimed was a web of deception behind the scenes. He wasn't just the guy yelling "Yoop" during bidding wars. He was now the man accusing the entire production of fakery. According to his lawsuit, producers weren't leaving things to chance. They were stuffing storage units with planted items, things like a BMW Mini or a stack of Elvis Presley death announcement newspapers, all designed to boost the drama and pull in bigger ratings. Hester didn't stay quiet. He went straight to Los Angeles Superior Court, asking for more than $750,000 in damages. He claimed he was fired for speaking up, and said the production team had broken their contract and violated business laws. He even argued that the producers may have broken federal broadcasting rules from the Communications Act of 1934, which bans the rigging of contests. The network, A&E, had to respond publicly, but the damage was already done. Viewers were left questioning whether any of their favorite locker reveals had ever been real. Then came the evidence, and it was hard to ignore. A pile of emails, receipts, and even reimbursement checks appeared, showing that the locker planting wasn't just a rumor. Sources from the set described how, especially during the first season, producers blatantly placed items inside the lockers, sometimes right in front of the cast and crew. The method was disturbingly clear. Cast members would bring their own interesting items. Producers would stash them in the lockers. The cast would find them during filming. Later, they'd submit an invoice and get paid a rental fee. Some receipts even matched the exact items that later appeared in the show's big reveal scenes. This wasn't sloppy. It was organized. It was documented. And it painted a brutal picture of how far reality TV would go to manufacture a hit. Even fan-favorite Brandi Passante got caught up in the controversy. Known for her quick wit and surprising discoveries, Brandi had built a loyal audience with her partner, Jared Schultz. Together, they had stumbled upon some truly bizarre things. Vintage dentures, foxes of old toys. But not every find was by chance. As more insiders came forward, it became clear that Brandi and Jared weren't just passive players. They had, at times, supplied their own items to be planted, and were later reimbursed for doing so. In production meetings, they reportedly supported the practice. Whether they were handed items by producers or brought their own, the line between real finds and planted treasures became almost impossible to spot. If an item had a backstory that sounded too perfect or showed up at just the right dramatic moment, there was a good chance it had been placed there on purpose. None of this happened in a vacuum. The pressure behind the scenes was intense. Real storage auctions are often boring. Many units are filled with junk. Old clothes, broken furniture, paperwork. That doesn't make good TV. To fix that, producers allegedly leaned on the cast to play exaggerated versions of themselves. Some were asked to say certain lines. Others were pushed to argue on camera. Sometimes editors stitched together clips from different conversations to create fake arguments or dramatic reactions. These tricks, known as Frankenbites, blurred the line between real emotions and TV fiction. and the pay wasn't bad. At the height of the show, cast members were making between $15,000 and $25,000 per episode. That kind of money made it tempting to play along. For nearly 20 years, Brandi Passante and Jared Schultz were side by side, not just raising kids and running a business, but building a fan base as the young guns of Storage Wars. But right after filming Season 12 in 2018, they quietly split up. They never got married, so there was no legal paperwork to leak. And for almost 2 years, nobody outside their circle knew a thing. Brandi kept posting on social media, but Jared slowly faded from her photos. Then another man started showing up. Rumors swirl. But it wasn't until June 2020 that Brandi finally confirmed it during a casual Facebook Live interview. Even then, they didn't say much. They kept filming, barely spoke on set, acted like nothing happened. It was the kind of secret that doesn't survive long in reality TV, yet somehow they pulled it off. When fans eventually found out, they went back to old episodes looking for clues. How had no one noticed? Everything changed in April 2021. After 2 years off air, Storage Wars returned with Season 13, and the breakup became part of the show. Brandi and Jared were no longer partners. They were rivals, openly bidding against each other and tossing insults. Brandi called him an idiot on camera. Jared joked about bidding just to spite her. The tension wasn't just visible. It was uncomfortable. Brandi later admitted that filming those scenes wasn't easy, but she stuck with it for the show. That season didn't just reveal their breakup, it exploded it. And just as fans were adjusting to this new dynamic, another shock hit. In May 2021, Jared was charged with misdemeanor domestic violence battery after allegedly pushing Brandi at a bar. It wasn't just a messy breakup anymore. It was a legal situation that made everything feel darker, heavier, and far more real than what the show had ever shown before. After all that, Brandi's life shifted dramatically. She was awarded full custody of their 2 children, Peyton and Cameron. And it wasn't an easy path. Peyton had been born deaf and with a cleft palate. Cameron had faced a kidney mass scare. Even before the split, Brandi had taken on most of the parenting responsibilities. Now, she had to do it all. She called herself the primary caregiver and joked about not having the scary dad voice to back her up anymore. But she didn't stop. She kept working, kept raising her kids, and kept showing up. On social media, she shared moments with them, like celebrating Cameron's 21st birthday in May 2024. Her followers saw her as strong, steady, and real. Meanwhile, Jared focused on running a bar in Lake Forest and stayed mostly out of sight. Brandi's journey as a single mother wasn't easy, but it became the most important chapter of her life. She was no longer just part of a duo. She was her own person, standing alone. That's when she admitted something even more painful. For years, she said, she didn't have an identity. Everything had been about the show, the relationship, and the role she was expected to play. She was Brandi and Jared, not just Brandi. After the split, that changed. She started figuring out who she really was. She called it a time of reinvention. After her split from Jared Schultz, Brandi Passante didn't just move on quietly. She shifted her focus in a powerful public way. In 2019, she partnered with a nonprofit called Women's Own Worth, which helps survivors of domestic violence. At their annual event, Wapalooza, Brandi did more than show up. She took the stage as MC and helped raise $100,000 in a single night. For her, it wasn't about publicity. Brandi had experienced domestic struggles herself, and that made her efforts personal. Then came the bar fight. In April 2021, Brandi was at a bar in Orange County. Jared showed up. Witnesses said Brandi asked him to leave. He refused. Things got heated. He allegedly pushed her twice and yelled at her and her friends. Police were called, but Jared had already left. He later denied touching her. Still, the district attorney charged him with misdemeanor domestic violence battery. Fans who had followed their on-screen love story were shocked. The breakup already seemed sad, but now it looked like there had been something much darker going on behind the scenes. The incident shattered any illusion that their split had been civil or simple. In 2023, her personal life became just as public. That's when she introduced her new relationship with Clifford Beaver. He's a real estate agent and runs a bar called Our Place Bar and Grill in Lake Forest, California. After spending nearly 2 decades with Jared, this new chapter came as a surprise to fans. But the way Brandi and Clifford interacted, especially on Instagram, felt like a breath of fresh air. They shared birthday tributes, family moments, and behind-the-scenes clips from Clifford's bar. In May 2024, Clifford posted a birthday montage for Brandi that showed them laughing, traveling, and blending their families. Both had kids from past relationships, and together they looked genuinely happy. People noticed. Fans said Brandi looked more at ease, more joyful, and completely different from the tension-filled dynamic they'd seen before. Going public with Clifford wasn't just about romance, it was about reclaiming her peace. Then came the podcast announcement. In June 2025, Brandi revealed she was launching The Real Reality with Brandi Passante. This wasn't some soft celebrity chat. She promised raw honesty and behind-the-scenes truths about the reality TV world. She said she'd talk about what happens off-camera, things fans never get to see. She even teased it with the caption, "See, it's about to get real." And people believed her. After all, Brandi spent over 260 episodes on Storage Wars, plus a spinoff, and dealt with the ups and downs of fame, heartbreak, and raising kids in the spotlight. The podcast would premiere across all major platforms, including YouTube. With her blunt style and fearless topics, it quickly became one of the most anticipated launches in the genre. But just when fans thought they knew what to expect, Brandi dropped another surprise. In February 2025, she posted photos from inside a recording studio. The caption was short, "Chai back, stay tuned." That post set off a wave of speculation. Was this tied to the podcast? Or was she working on something totally different, like music, voice work, or even a new show? The mystery only added to the excitement. In an age where celebrity plans usually leak before they're announced, Brandi managed to keep everything quiet. Fans zoomed in on the studio equipment and lighting, trying to decode every clue. No one knew for sure, but one thing was clear. Brandi was reinventing herself again, not as a storage auction queen, but as a creative force, building something entirely new. Financially, she's more than secure. Her estimated net worth in 2025 is around $2 million. A big part of that came from Storage Wars, where she reportedly made $15,000 per episode. With over 260 episodes, that totals nearly $4 million in gross earnings. And that's before adding her income from Brandi and Jared, married to the job, her thrift store business, and various merchandise lines. She and Jared started with almost nothing. They were the youngest buyers on the show, with the least money to spend. But Brandi was smart. She turned every opportunity into something bigger. At the peak of their fame, they even opened a second thrift store. Those stores eventually closed, but Brandi didn't stop. She kept evolving, branching into media, merchandise, and new business ideas. Her journey proves that reality TV fame doesn't have to be temporary. With the right mindset, it can turn into a lasting empire.